Okay, this is going to be how the legend of the Cyclops was birthed by the discovery of mammoth and elephant bones. So here's a dwarf elephant skull. Large one's going to look the same, except it's going to be much bigger. So when they would find these things, they would get confused on what they are. Like, they see this hole in the middle of the head. They thought these were ear canals, and this was the eye. And then they thought these things here were the nostrils. So they envisioned it to be this thing called a Cyclops. And in Greek history, Cyclopses were the sons of Poseidon. And so they'd find these giant bones that were bigger than anything they could find, and these were mammoth bones and just regular elephant bones. So they would rearrange them. So here's an African elephant that actually did. This is a pretty cool exhibit here, so you can pull these things across. So they would find these bones, and these are where they actually went on the animals. This is a pretty cool exhibit. You can, like, they have the things underneath glass here with a magnet, so you can get them from where they would belong on the elephant, and then assemble them to how the Greeks got confused to make a Cyclops. So the chief of this would be the skull that we just went over. So you put that over here and move everything else around, and all of a sudden you've got this giant, enormous guy with one eye in the middle of his head. So you move all these parts around, and here's this giant skeleton of a guy standing upright with one eye in his head, and these giant bones, and they're bigger than anything you've ever seen. And you try to figure out a way to, it's much like the modern evolutionists try to pretend we come from rocks. And excuse me. So this is where it came from. So it's just misidentification and not proper steps of logic, but that's how it came from. So you know, they've seen human skulls that have the nasal passage in the middle. So you think, well, maybe why didn't they catch that? Because they misidentified where the tusks came out is the nasal passage, and they thought they just weren't finding the jaw on the bottom. So they had these giant horrific creatures called Cyclopses that were, 25, 35 feet tall, and which would be what an elephant would be if it reared up on its back legs. Here's a kind of to scale drawing of a giant. So anyway, yeah, this is where Cyclopses came from the elephant, or the mammoth, or the mastodon. The Romans thought that they were actually mining ivory from the ground north of the Black Sea, and they thought that the elephants lived underneath the ground and would come up, and then the sun would kill them and they would die. So they, you can get all kinds of weird thinking doing stuff like that. But anyway, that's how they misidentified it. They thought these were the ear holes, that was the eye hole, and that these were the tusks would come out, were the nasal passages. So that's, considering what they had to work with, that isn't a bad misdiagnosis. Anyway, check out the works of Trey Smith, Ken Ham, Kent Hovind, and I have way more stuff on all my other YouTube channels, Pat Moynihan, Tim Moynihan, and I got timbosplace.com. Thank you, I'm out.